Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with Golden Opportunities Coaching. Welcome to those of you who are new. Welcome to those of you who are seasoned veterans. What we do around here is we break down psychological, social, and emotional topics and coaching topics for your discernment and hopefully education. We try to do that as often as we can, hopefully on a daily basis now that we're into August. Although, if the day gets away from me like today, that may be harder than I think. Today we're going to talk about self-esteem and 8 things that can challenge your self-esteem. I think every life problem on an emotional level at any point comes down to low self-esteem. So when we understand the signs of low self-esteem or the things that we do, it's invaluable because we can begin to change those behaviors, which might make us look different to others, which in turn then will help us feel different within ourselves. The first one is doubt, self-doubt. If you do not believe you are capable of doing something, your body and mind will find a way to prove you right. The human mental structure is such that we find what we believe in. Very simple principle taught by all the world greats, whether it's we're talking about Dr. Wayne Dyer, Tony Robbins, various psychologists, all the way back to Jung and Freud to talk about this concept. So you get what you believe in, you get what you focus on, which is why it's one of the tenets of the method that I teach, because no matter how you state it, your focus becomes your reality sooner or later, because if you focus on something enough, your brain is automatically going to prove to you that you are correct through reminding you and filtering things that prove your viewpoint. So if you doubt your ability to do something, you will eventually come to a place where you can't do it or do less than you're capable of actually doing, simply because you've been around that thought process for so long that it leads to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Self-doubt, a huge, huge challenge for the majority of people. The next one is when you over-apologize. Look, apologizing when you do something wrong or when you don't have information or when you are struggling with something is a very brave, honorable, noble, and necessary thing to do. However, much like anything else, when you overdo something, it loses impact, it loses value, and sooner or later, when you get to over-apologizing, 2 things are going to happen. Number 1, you're going to forget why you apologize. And so when you forget why you apologize, it just becomes instinct, which means sooner or later, the act of apologizing itself gets lost because people no longer take your apologies to mean anything, and they realize they can manipulate you into apologizing for things that aren't your fault, actually, or their fault. But though, if you take the blame, they don't have to change, they don't have to grow, they don't have to help you out. So another one in that is the blame game. When you have a low view of yourself, you're looking for an out. You're looking to save face. You're looking to ultimately not look weak, not look negative, not look like you don't know what you're doing. And so blaming others is a great way to shift attention away from yourself when something goes wrong, when you've made a mistake, when you've made a misstep, when you've been underinformed, when you don't know what you're doing. If you can take the attention off of yourself and put it on to somebody else, it's a great way to deflect any other negativity that comes along with, being seen in a negative light. When we find a way to be seen in a way to take the blame off ourselves, sometimes we can recover, sometimes we can see things differently, and sometimes, as often is the case for people that are using this tactic a lot, we can just disappear into the crowd and not have to be as accountable as we were before. The idea behind blaming others is to take the attention off ourselves under any means necessary. The next one is body language. So a person who's confident is going to stand with their body forward, whether it be standing on their feet, ready to walk ahead, their shoulders up, their head up, make a lot of eye contact. And for the most part, you can see, confidence coming through their body in how they carry themselves, hold themselves, and look at the world. Same can be said for a person that has low self-esteem, only in reverse. So they're going to slouch. They're not going to make a lot of eye contact. They're going to be non-committal. They might be leaned back. They might look away when confronted with a conversation. They may even avoid conversation altogether. Their body language is basically going to be as uninviting as possible. This is, again, another way to divert attention from oneself. If a person can divert attention enough, they won't be asked to do anything. They won't be asked to grow, change, or alter themselves in any way, which means they can go back to their default setting indirectly, which is ultimately doing the least amount possible in the easiest way and the quickest way. Next is bad habits. So habits of self-sabotage go along with self-esteem issues. They may be alcoholism, drug use, impetuous sexual conquest, gambling, overeating or undereating, forms of self-punishment, basically anything bad that one can do to themselves outside of moderation. Not saying never drink, not saying never engage in, maybe smoking some marijuana, but when it becomes to the point where the habit takes on more value than the person themselves, there's a real problem there. Underselling yourself. So you might have skills or talents. You might be a really good musician, or you might be a really good speaker, or you might be really good with kids. You might have a special talent or field of knowledge in science or the arts or something. And inevitably, you're not going to care. You're going to avoid talking about yourself in a positive light. You're going to avoid confronting the things you can do to help, because the fear of failure dominates your thoughts, feelings, and worldview. And you are more worried about failing at something than you are about trying at something. And sooner or later, that makes you an ineffective person, which ultimately leads to people not asking you to do as much. And then you can almost slink into obscurity and invisibility as easily as you like, as often as you like. Second to last one, your self-image, obviously, from this is poor. Even when somebody gives you a compliment, even when somebody makes you feel like there might be some hope, you will again, much like number one, talk yourself into negativity. You'll talk yourself into a view that is going to cause you to be as invisible as possible. You're going to talk yourself into something which ultimately comes down to, I don't want to be here, I don't want to do this, I want to do the least amount possible, I want to be as ineffective and unknown as I possibly can. The last one, in terms of low self-esteem, the only thing you will accept from yourself is perfection, which means there's no room for growth, there's no room for self-reflection, there's no room for anything other than being absolutely perfect with everything you do. Trouble is, most of us can be perfect at something once in a while, right? You can hit the perfect basketball shot, but if they hand you the basketball 20 times, you might hit that shot once or twice. The other 18 times, you're going to miss. Missing and falling short is often part of life, but a person with low self-esteem cannot cope with this part of life, and thus that part of the relationship is extremely difficult. And I say relationship, I'm talking about relationship within oneself. So those are the most common aspects of self-esteem that become extremely difficult for a person to deal with. If there's a topic you'd like to see covered, please feel free to reach out. Usually can do that in the comments within a couple of days. Until next time, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Until next time, everybody.